Hello and welcome to The Witch Source. I'm Whitney and I have with me today Toni Rotonda, and she is the other half of the Buckland Museum, but we will get to that later. So, welcome, Toni.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. This
Yeah.
is exciting. Exciting.
So, first question, how did you get introduced to magic and or the craft?
Um, well, how much time do we have? Because I'll just be jabbering on. How much time is this interview usually?
We go about an hour or
About
so.
an hour. Okay.
We need
All right. So way back when I was much younger, I lived. So my mother and father were divorced. And my father's side was very Catholic, very strict Catholic. My mother was very open to all things and still is. So I grew up with my mother, and it was the craft came much later. Uh, in our household, all things paranormal were very welcome.
Oh, cool.
Um, it was all I had a nanny growing up. Who did tarot card readings um, every single morning. He had
Oh,
to draw
that's
his. So I grew up with that, and very much in the spiritual realm. It was nothing to come home in the fourth or fifth grade, and my mom would say, "Get your book, put your book bag down, get over here," and she'd be sitting with the Ouija board out in the middle of the day, and need somebody. So that was very normal in my house.
oh, cool.
Very very odd for a lot of people, but that was very normal in my home. I had um, I had this ability to just have prophetic dreams.
Ooh.
That was normal also. So kind of grew up in the paranormal aspect. On my father's side, it was much different. We weren't allowed to talk about that because that was evil.
Right.
So I had to watch what I said. Later on, this is such a long story, but I will give you the nickel tour. I had a salon where a man came in, and he was a color distributor of some sort. And gosh, I was in my early 20s, and I knew about the craft, but I didn't know anybody to talk to about it.
Okay.
And his name was Daniel. He came in, and he had leaned down to put his bags down, and he had a pentagram that had fallen out of his shirt. And I saw that, and I knew what it was, but again, didn't know anybody. And I asked him what it was, and he tucked it in his shirt as fast as he could, and was very, oh, no. And I said, no. So I go over and I close the door, and I said, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's going on.
Right. Good
So
for you.
again, what's that?
Good for you to take that step.
Yeah. So he just gave me the nickel tour of what he was about, and then at the end of the conversation had said, "Oh well, we have a witch's ball this weekend. There's a witch's ball, so if you want to come and learn more about it, come on." And I
Oh,
was
cool.
like, "Witch's ball, witch's ball, the witches." Anyway, I went. I had a great time, and that was when I was first kind of exposed to all things the craft. It was here in Columbus, Ohio. Um, Great time, great people that I still have, strong connections with, and so that's when I was introduced to it. Now, let me digress. So, back in the Catholic Church, um, I the huge Catholic church here in an area called Grandview Heights, every Sunday in church with my father, there was this beautiful statue of Mary that I adored. I adored. Of course, you've got the big Jesus on the cross up in the front, and typical
Right.
church.
Right.
But every Sunday, I just was so drawn to her, and she and I would have conversations. Not literally, but I would in my head. We'd have conversations, and that didn't come till much later. But anyway, as a child, I fell in love with her. I just loved her. I felt a connection to her, and later on in the craft, I was introduced to her in a much different way, and that really resonated with me. The relationship with the divine feminine. So that's where the craft came into play with my own spirituality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I
It's
think that's beautiful.
There's so much more that happened, but basically it was just my connection with her as a child, and then later on it was, this man just happened to come in, and we had a conversation, and I ended up going to a witch's ball, and that's so that was early 20s. So since then, gosh, so much has happened. A couple metaphysical shops that opened up in Columbus. I went to one that was called the Cat in the Cauldron, owned by Kat Tigner. And so I went to her shop, waited when no one was around because I didn't want to ask embarrassing questions because I didn't know. And she was super helpful, amazing, and would just say, "Here, take this book. Bring it back when you can, but take this book and, okay." So one day she called and said, "Hey, we're having a séance. Would you be interested?"
Ooh.
No, no, I'm good. I'm good. No, 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 no. We need another person. Are you interested? Okay. All right. Okay. So I came, and that is when all these, much older people than I. Um, so it was a little uncomfortable because I felt like I was the youngest one there. But this lovely, lovely white-haired gentleman approached me with this amazing English accent and said, "Hello, I'm Raymond Buckland. Nice to meet you." People are going to cringe, but at that point, I really didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was. So I'm really fortunate to have met him in that way, where I really didn't know. Um, so that's kind of how my relationship with Raymond Buckland started. Later on, Kat and Ray put a coven together, and then, long story short, just initiated into the group. So he was my high priest. So kind of a crash course and everything. So, but I was lucky. I was very, very lucky. I hear so many stories about people getting into groups, into covens, and it not working, or somebody, we've all heard the stories. We've all heard the stories about
Right.
some of the other things that happened, but thankfully I was in a pretty healthy, stable, group. So that was good. But that's it. That's basically how it all came about in a
How,
nutshell.
how long did that group go on for? Like, was that
It's still going on. It's still
oh,
going on.
cool?
Yeah, it was early 2000s when that started, and yeah, we're still going. Most of the people are here in Columbus, but there are a few that are scattered all over. But yeah, it's still going. We're still doing our thing.
That is awesome. Because you don't, a lot of times you don't see that longevity either.
Yeah, yeah, I see that too. I see that too. Things have a tendency to die off. People just lose interest. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. People get busy, things happen in their lives, people move, or they find a different religion or find that it's not for them anymore. All kinds of things happen. And,
Right.
if there's not that one person to keep it together, it does have a tendency to kind of die off. But so, yeah.
Do you find that maybe like some people migrate away for a time and then come back?
Oh, sure, sure. Everybody has a different path, different reason. But yeah, or migrate off and never come back, and for different reasons. I know people that are like, oh gosh, a few people down in Florida who were some of Ray's original initiates back in Long Island that are just like, bunch of hogwash, just their older generation, and they're just they loved it at the time and just feel like, I don't know what I was doing,
Right.
or or people find Christianity. There's lots of different reasons. I can't really speculate. I know lots of them. I know lots of people that were Christian and then come into the pagan, or pagan go into the Christian, or don't do anything, or they're atheist. Everybody has their own path, so
Right.
you
Right.
have to do what's right for you.
May I ask what your position is now in the coven?
So I am the acting high priestess of the coven. So I probably didn't tell you that down in Starwood, but
You
I
did.
didn't say any of that. Yeah. So no, I am the high priestess of our group, and it's called the Temple of Sacrifice. People hear sacrifice, Temple of
Right.
Sacrifice, Temple of Sacrifice here. Yep, I
Awesome.
like it. We keep it together. We're doing good. So yeah, it's enjoyable. I not to sound corny at all, but I really I just feel whatever I can do in her service, So I'm always in her service. So however they can use me to do that, I love it. I enjoy it. So
Would you
we're
mind sharing how you got reintroduced to the divine feminine or goddess aspect?
well, it never left. It never left. I've always been connected to her. Um, it was just amazing, because I'd never been, growing up, I was never in that pagan community who had the god and the goddess. It was always God, you know. Um, so it really was that witch's ball that started me onto this is me, and this is there was a moment in the church years ago where what the priest had made me feel. I was very angry at this particular priest, um, that he was upset that I was praying to Mary and not to Jesus and God, and that I was doing it wrong, and you're not. And this made me made second grader Toni very upset because
Right.
I felt, But she's always been with me. I've always had a connection to her. So yeah. So, but
That's
no,
awesome.
she never left. She never left. It just found a different path. So,
Right. What do you say would be, I mean, did you have very much experience like as a solitary practitioner, or did it kind of just start more organically in the coven setting, group setting?
it, yeah, there were a few years as a solitary practitioner. Me kind of fumbling about trying to figure out what's right and we all do that. We all do that. We read our books, our Scott Cunningham and all that. So yeah, I would say after that time before joining the group, there were a good 4 or 5 years of solitary practitioner that I was doing, and then I had a couple people that I'd met, and I bounce ideas off of them, but it was, yeah, there was I hate to say that I would do it all alone because I wouldn't. There were a few people that I knew, that were doing the same thing. I'm not making any sense. I know. I'm just trying to figure out the
No, you
timeline
are. You
out.
are.
Um, but yeah, maybe 4 years or so before joining the coven of solitary,
Can
which I
you?
like. I like. So I will say that even though I run the group, um, there are a lot of times where I feel like I need to do some things on my own. And I hope we all do that. There is our group, but there are things that we need to do on our own. And sometimes I feel, this is just me personally, sometimes I feel a little bit more connected with her when I'm by myself and I do my own ritual.
Right.
Um, when you run the group, sometimes I feel like uh, you don't you don't get that personal aspect when you're running. Does that make any
Right.
sense?
Yeah,
Um,
because you're facilitating everybody else, and it
yeah,
probably comes about
it
in
can
a
be
different
hard.
manner. The
It can
energy
be
probably.
hard because you're trying to make sure that everyone is doing what they need to do, and it's kind of like when you're planning a party and you can either go to the party and have a great time, or you're hosting the party and you're worried about, oh, they got red wine over there, they're gonna spill it, they're gonna, just the things that you worry about, that you hope and you want your circle to go well, and nobody's catching themselves on fire, or you know
Right.
the things that happen. So it's sometimes I love running them. I love doing it. I love facilitating all this for everyone because it's important. But
Right.
again, sometimes I get.
Right.
I don't know why my video just. Oh, okay, it's back on. There was just like lines. I don't know if you saw it, but
I did.
okay.
That's okay. Um, so for people who are wondering, is it worth pursuing a group? Is it worth trying to find a group to join or study with or learn from versus staying solitary? Would you have any words of advice?
It depends on the person. Some people just don't get along with others. We have had a lot of people in the group, and a lot of people hive off, or a lot of people they get to third and they just stay where they are, and they're fine with that. And then there are some people that just don't work well with others, um, and we try. We
Right.
try. You've seen it. If you've been in a group for a long time, you've seen it where you just, and those people, I feel, how do I say this without getting into trouble and everyone yelling, and because everybody always has something to say. Um, there are some people that belong solitary, and they should stay that way because and again, there are lots of different reasons. Whether it's, oh, well, that's not the way my last High Priestess had done it, or that's not the way we call quarters, or that's not the way. And well, well, you're in a different group. You can do what you need to back home. Um, but again, like some people just are not cut out to be in the group.
Right.
Um, on the flip side, some people shouldn't be in a group because they feel more of a connection outside of a group. They feel more comfortable being on their own. I know a lot of people that have gone the group route and they just feel a little bit more comfortable, doing their outside rituals by themselves or with a few others. But um, again, everyone is different, and it's not good or bad. It's just what works for you. Not Groups don't always work for people.
Right.
Um, I love the camaraderie. I love the group setting. I love the meeting. I love I love getting all of us together and everyone just after ritual, you just feel so good. And I'm not saying you can't get that in a solitary, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Does
Right.
that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think I appreciate that answer because I think that that is true. It is a personal choice for everybody, and some people fit and some people don't. And um, do you have people that come just to get the training and then want to not necessarily stay a part of the group or work with the group, but they just want to feel like they get the educational aspect out of it?
not not as of late. We have not. No, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. And that's fine too. That's fine too. Normally most of our people just stay and kind of continue on. I think it's the food. I think it's all I think it's all the stuff I make. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, we have not had that yet, but I know that. I know there are a lot of groups that offer that, specifically just the training and not so much the rest of it. I'm not sure if tomorrow's this Buskedman. Do they offer that? The clan up Buskedman?
Yeah, so you can join them, take the courses, and go through um, just the courses and never initiate. And you can take the course, the classes as often or as many times as you like, and never actually initiate. And then I know like she's had people go all the way up to third degree, but never want to
Hive
do
off.
anything with it, right? Like be their own standalone or progress from that onto like leading their own group or anything.
Okay.
Um, and then some people do. So I like that it's offered at least. But I could see how for some it would be difficult because it's like you're coming in and you're learning all of our, secrets and traditions, but there's no interest in staying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do think, from my personal experience with Buskenden, after initiating and starting after initiation courses, which you don't get if without that initiation piece, it is different information, and you do get more into the tradition and the the I guess mysteries or secrets, as you would say, like once you go through that initiation process. But as far as like the basics and the training courses, I think she pretty much offers that. Um,
Okay.
but it's been interesting to see the difference and fill in some of the gaps. So that's been fun.
Tamara is a great teacher. She's a great teacher. So I every time I'm with her, I learn something. Yeah, I learn
Yeah.
I learn lots of new things every time I'm with her.
She's just
So
such a wealth of information too. Like, and
yeah,
and it's you never know where her mind is at as far as like what she's going to share, because even one subject like the tarot, for example, she can teach that in so many different ways
right,
and present different information each time. And
right,
so it's like whatever her intention is for that session is what you're going to get. um, and I appreciate that, and it keeps you coming back because you don't know what little nugget she's going to share,
yeah.
you know this time around. um, so it's definitely been interesting for me. I've enjoyed it, but
Yeah, it is. She's a wealth of knowledge
yes,
and funny. She cracks
yeah,
me up. So
very enjoyable. Yeah.
I think it's
Who?
very I think it's very important to have a sense of humor, and she's got a there are so many people that take everything so seriously within the craft, and I love that she's able to laugh at herself. And so
Yes.
we have to we have to laugh at ourselves because oh, the gods have senses of humor too. So yeah, go along
Well,
with it.
I think if everybody keeps a little bit of that sense of humor about them, then there are less. disagreements or misunderstandings, and everybody can kind of have enough grace with each other to keep the intention and the heart of things um, at the forefront versus being offended or getting feelings hurt by something that wasn't meant to hurt or injure anybody, and um, I could definitely see that adding a layer. Have you seen a difference in the coven just through like the different avenues of resources, social media, um, different avenues of information being provided? Like, we've got YouTube and videos and thousands of authors now, and millions of different decks, all these different like resources that we originally didn't have several years back. Have you seen a change in in just the environment since then?
I have. There are a few members that are a little younger than everyone else. And so we're bombarded with TikTok videos. Bombarded. YouTube videos, TikTok videos. And I I have seen a lot of, you know, let's try this or the and and that's fine. It's we have our group chat, we have our group Facebook thing, we have it, it's all private and everybody can see it, but it makes, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm probably the worst to I'm old school. I am so old school. Um but yeah, I don't
But
know.
just
I don't know. It's
would you,
there. I'm not real.
as a high
Go ahead.
priestess, though, especially of the group that you became a part of, do you feel like it's maybe partially your responsibility to
Oh, absolutely.
traditions?
Absolutely. Yes, go over. It depends on the subject matter of whatever the video is. We'll have a discussion about whether this is ethical or not. I mean, um, yeah, no, there are those discussions, but some of it's silly and you know not worth really mentioning. And it
How
passes. It passes.
how much
So
of
I go ahead.
that that is presented to you do you feel like is just not accurate,
Um,
like
I
misinformation out
I
there?
I'm trying to think of something offhand that one of them sent. Um, I think it was like cursing, something on cursing and hexing. And I have had this discussion with everyone over and over about my own opinion. Like this is not how we go about this. I mean, um, with me, it is, I am not, how do I say this without pissing everybody off too? Um, within our group, we know everything is ethical, but it's not. If you feel this is terrible, and this is not me, I'm just saying, a couple of them have felt wronged about something. It's always a man. There's always something with a guy or something. Um, it's up to you. It's your path. You need to do what's right for you. I personally wouldn't do it. I think the universe has a way of taking care of these things. You are going to do whatever you want to do. Just don't tell me. Just don't tell me what you do. But
Right.
I will give you my advice. This is how I see it. Let's throw some cards down. Let's do something. Let me tell you what I'm hearing.
Right.
But you are sending me all this stuff, and it sounds like you're pretty bound and determined to go your own way. If you do that, it's on you. But I'm saying just let it go. This will work itself out.
Right.
I can't. I can't control what they do. I can just give them advice on the subject. And thankfully, they do come to me. And my high priestess as well is always there. And we sometimes we don't see eye to eye, but which happens. But
Right.
yeah, I'm always about take the higher road. It'll work itself out. Don't worry about this.
Right.
All I can do is give them my advice and my own personal experiences and what I think they should do. But there's a couple that I know, and it didn't work out right. Because I hear from the grapevine. They don't want to tell me about it later, but I hear from the grapevine. Yeah, that didn't work out, and this happened anyway. So
Right.
just
Right.
the
So
thing. Go ahead.
I've had a couple people ask me about very similar things as well, and I basically tell them the same thing. Like, you have to have faith in whatever it is you have faith in, that you are provided for, you are protected, and that if you are wronged, it will be set right in some fashion. But then I have people that come to me and they are just bound and determined that they
Yeah,
are meant to do something to somebody. They are meant to be that karma. They are going to be the ones to make it happen. And I just say, that's your choice. That's your
yeah,
choice. Like, I would recommend you meditating on it. I would
yeah,
recommend you reading on it,
yeah.
but it's absolutely your choice, and know that for everything you do there is a consequence, and that is also yours to take on. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and I hear about some of the backfiring that happens, and that's I just use it as a learning lesson. Like, okay, now you
Yeah,
remember all that passion you had, and you threw that at that, and now you're dealing with it coming right back at you. This is why. This is why we don't do those things.
I kind of like it. I this is mean to say. I kind of like when it backfires, or then they know that the next time around that they were a little quick to judge and they should have waited, a little bit long. Just wait a week, just wait a few days, and a lot of times our emotions will pass, and then we'll see something from a different perspective. And
Right.
what do you
And I
do?
love,
What do you?
well, I know, right? Like, and then I love the ones where I was able to like talk them out of it, calm them down. And then they come back like, a couple weeks or a month later and they're like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened. And I'm like, see, you
Yeah,
just had to wait.
yeah,
Let the divine work for you. You don't have to push anything. You don't have to be the one to make things happen. It will happen.
yeah.
So that's always fun.
Learning,
Some of your
learning.
favorite authors and or teachers that you've had.
Well, I have to say Raymond Buckland, of course.
Right.
Um, you know, the funny thing is, um, I've read all of his books, probably most of them twice. Um, but I think I learned more from him just hanging out in the garage, chatting about his life and the things that he went through, and the exact same things that we're talking about. Um, Basically, same answers, same answers.
Right.
So Raymond Buckland. Oh gosh, there's some new ones that I really really like. Let's see, I've got a table full of. I always have all kinds of Byron Ballard. She's been wonderful. She's lovely. I don't know if you're down there by her. Are you in you're in North Carolina, right? Are you in Asheville? Yeah,
I'm a few hours from it. A few
yeah.
hours.
So she's down there. Oh gosh, there's so many. Ivo Dominguez, of course, he's amazing. Laura Tempest, Zakharov. There's so many of them. Matt Oren, um, Jason Mankey. Um, of course, all the Cunningham and Leake and yeah. There's so many. Shoot. one of my favorites now. There's Najah Lightfoot. Najah, she's out in California. Um, oh gosh, what's the last one? Kristen Solier. I just read an amazing book for, and I do not know the title. Kristen Solier. It was just basically where witches should travel, things that they should see around
Oh,
in
nice.
the world. Kristen Solier. Oh my God, I don't even. I just finished that one. That one was a good read. But there's so many. There's so many. Thankfully, I have the opportunity to read because I kind of have to. I have to with the museum. I kind of have to read everybody and see what's happening, what everyone's
Right.
doing. So yeah.
Nice.
So
Is
I
there
don't
a
know.
particular book that you keep going back to that you continuously go back to and reference?
Obviously, the Big Blue book, the complete book of witchcraft. I have to do that. Um, Judica Elis. There's some of her reference books that I go back to. Now, I'm trying to imagine my library in my head and which ones I think about. Just recently, it was Mortellus. Mortellus had one of their books. It was we were dealing with some somebody had passed away, so we were doing some things. So that was just one of the recent ones. Um, but yeah,
I'm excited to get to interview her soon. Them soon.
Mortellus. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
they are amazing. They're amazing.
Yes.
Um, it's funny. I'm sharing something I probably shouldn't share. But the last time they were here, they were at Starwood, and I'm in Columbus, Ohio, so I'm super close to Port Columbus Airport. So everyone, flies into here, out of here, and flights get delayed, flights get canceled, or they're here early or late or something. And I have a house here that I just keep for anyone who needs to stay. It's empty. I used to rent it. I don't anymore because I just got tired of dealing with the renters. So it's the witch house. It's the pottery because I got. I think I told you I have all the pottery stuff I've been working on. So it's the coven stead. It's the hobby, and it's just basically Airbnb, but not really Airbnb for anyone
Right.
who's in town. And I think Mortellus, their plane was delayed or something happened, and so I was like, well, just come on over here, come here. And this house is really, really old. Built in 1897, has some terrible history of. There was a fire in the late 1800s, and there was a whole family that had passed.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, when I moved in here, I mean, this I could keep you on here forever telling you about the ghosts that come around this house. Now, most of them we have been able to cross over,
Right.
like the
Which I
family.
feel like is a responsible thing to do when you come
Yeah,
across a
yeah,
soul that needs help.
yeah, yeah. The whole family, they died in the fire, and they were just kind of stuck here.
Right.
So that's an interview for another time because I could talk. This
Let's do
house is
it.
actually in several books. Um,
Really?
yeah. So
Okay.
Mortellus came in, and they're all about death, 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 death. And I was, I said, well, come on in, help yourself. Oh, there's stuff in the refrigerator. Go grab whatever. And I went and I was showing someone else like where the bathroom was. It was another author that was down there at Starwood that their flight got delayed. So I was showing them, and then all of a sudden Mortellus, they disappear. And then I see they poke their head around the corner and they're like, come here, come here. It's like, what? She says, did you know your house used to be a funeral home?
That just
No,
gave me chills.
no. Yeah, come on, come downstairs. So they had already been to the basement, had already wandered around, and have discovered all these things that, and it's this house is one of the oldest on the street, so it's very probable that it probably was a funeral home because that's what they did. They did them, in the home. And they're showing me all kinds of stuff in the basement where this is where they hooked up this and this is for this and I'm like, wow, you just made my house even more scarier than it has been. So, but that, and then also they were able to discover that it was in the Green Books. So it was on the Green Book Registry in the 40s. I think it was late 40s, early 50s, where, and when I bought this house, it was kind of a halfway house. Um, it was 7 different apartments. So every once in a while, I still get mail for A, B, and C, and 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Um, but I purchased it and I took it all back down to one home, one house, and but there was evidence that there was an upstairs kitchen that they had divvied it up into a bunch of different quadrants. So in the green books um, they were catalogs for African American people when they would travel that they had a safe place to stay. So they they would look and check out the address, and then there were phone numbers and addresses, and they could call in and make sure there's room here. And this was a safe place for them to stay. And so having Mortellus, I learned more about my house because they were able to look, being, in, their field.
Right.
Um, they were able to look up all these things that I would not have access to. So, but in the interim, we had talked about, crocheting and knitting. And I knit. My grandmother taught me how to knit. So Mortellus brings this pastel yarn, and I was, because I'm expecting black and
Right.
gray. So they bring this big thing, and we just sat out in the backyard, and they were teaching me how to crochet back in the back, and
Oh, cool.
it was very interesting visit. Very interesting visit. So I learned green books, funeral home, and crochet all in one visit. I mean, the pagan community is amazing.
Absolutely.
They're amazing. Everyone is amazing. So that'll be a great interview because Mortellus is just a beautiful person. Beautiful person.
Yes. Yes. I'm definitely excited to interview them, and it will probably have to be at least two, if not three,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
different interviews to cover everything I would want to cover. So
Just I mean, things that you find in orifices of dead bodies will just be one
that's,
segment.
I did not
Because
even,
they have lots of stories. Lots of stories.
I will have to ask about that then. That's the list.
So
Too funny. Yeah, they would be on my list of authors, because I think their first book is so valuable because it, uh, it's about funeral rites for pagans.
that one is Do I Have to Wear Black? Yeah.
Right, right,
And then the
yeah.
other The Bones Fall in a Spiral. I have that sitting over there. Yeah.
I'm definitely excited for that. Uh, okay. What are or let me back up. What is your first magical memory that you have where you were like, without a doubt, magic is real, and this was my proof for yourself, not for anybody else?
That's a good question. Um, Gosh, I don't know. Magic is real. Not to be flip, um, but I mean, I see it every day. I see it every day. Like every day, there's something that's amazing, and I'm grateful for having the goddess in my life. But oh my gosh, the very first, I don't know. I
Or
don't
maybe
know.
a good standout, one that really stands out as important?
Let me think about that.
Okay.
Because I have one in mind, but it's more of a negative one. And I don't know that I want to talk about that one. It was negative, but it ended up good because I found myself in a really kind of a dangerous situation, and I asked for help, and I got it right away. Um, but I mean, that would certainly be a standout, but it was just really kind of a nefarious, like a strange situation. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Spell work. I will. Magic is real. It's totally real. Oh, sorry, Stanley. I just whacked Stanley. He's sleeping right next to me. That little black cat that wanders in. Um, I probably shouldn't be talking about this either. Um, it was it was a love candle that I made, and I made a bunch of them because I always get requests for them, and trust me, I'm all about the morals and the ethics of doing any kind of love spell. It is a no for me.
Right.
But when the person I feel is mature and they're doing it, to find just to bring somebody into their life, not that they are obsessed about one particular individual,
Right.
not at
Agreed.
all. I I have a friend down in Miami who always asks me to make candles, and they're usually for a particular reason. And I just happened to make some love candles, and it was I, this is so dumb. I can't believe I'm saying it. And I shipped down this one candle, just this one little love candle down there. And he asked, "Well, what is this one? I know what all these are because I had little labels on them and how to use them. And this isn't it. He's done it. We've been doing it for years. But this one was just a little red one with no label on it. And he called and asked. I was like, oh, that's a love one. Just when you're ready. Just if you're looking and you're ready, just light that one up. And I forgot all about it. And it was 3 or 4 months later. He had met the love of his life. It was somebody. Oh gosh, it was somebody in another state that had mutual friends.
Oh,
And
cool.
right, yeah. And I went down and I met his new boyfriend, and just just loved, just great, 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 great. Everything was wonderful. It all just kind of clicked. And while I was down, he said, "Oh, by the way, do you think maybe you can make me some more candles for, they were usually prosperity or stuff with his job?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, yeah." He says, "Because this is what I have left." And I look over and I see that red candle had been burned. I said, what was, what, why where'd that go?" He was like, "What?" I said, "When did you burn that?" He goes, "Oh, the loved one? I don't know, like 3 or 4 months ago." "Okay, you burned it." He was like, "Well, yeah, I was bored. I just thought I'd." And when did you meet your boyfriend? He was like, "Oh." So I'm not saying, and this is the other part of me where I know magic is real. Magic is real. But then I always second guess, like, did that really happen? did that did that I know it happened, and I'm like, oh no, I think this spell, and then I start to feel bad about this, like, but it's fine. It's fine. I know this is a dumb story, but um magic is very real. It works.
Most,
Be careful.
yeah,
Just be careful. So
exactly.
thankfully, ugh, I don't know. That was a dumb story. Anyway, yeah, it's real.
So, is there another one that you maybe can share that, and I know you talked a little bit already about the connection with the divine feminine, but the goddess, but is there a story that you can share where it was really made real for you, where maybe it wasn't so much like spell related, but just the magic of it all, the connection, the divine interference or connection or anything like that? If
Um,
you
I don't know. I mean, there are so many different examples that I can come up with. There's I don't know. And once this interview's done, I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have totally said this, or there's so many. There's I don't know. Um, let's see. There were Okay, I'll tell you this story, and I'll give you the nickel tour. So I do a lot of not a lot because I don't advertise, I don't tell anybody, and people just find me just because spirit led them to me in some way. But house cleansings, and and it's usually when it gets to me, it's usually something pretty bad, and most of the time, it's just somebody who passed who's a little grouchy, and those are easy. Those are the easy ones. They're just a little grouchy. These people are in their space. This is my house. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with all that, but a lot of times it's a little, all right, let's sit down and let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this. And, you know, draw boundaries. If you'd like to stay, these are the boundaries. You've heard a lot of these stories. There was an apartment complex that I didn't realize it was a huge apartment complex. Um, it had been burned down or burned out. There was a large fire there. Um, and one apartment out of, we'll say a dozen apartments that were in this building, one apartment was, habitable. And that's who got a hold of me. And then there were some storefronts. There were 2 or 3 storefronts on the lower level that were being used. But the rest of the building had been burned out, huge fire. Nobody knew the history. Nobody, because it had been burned out for so long that the people that, the rotation of people, the stories had gotten lost. These people had, been dealing with something with red eyes that would come through their house and terrorize their children, and it was almost weekly there was something, and there was lots of other things that were manifesting. Not a place I don't want to be there. I don't
Right.
want to, I'm okay with dealing with humans, but I hate dealing with the other side. Hate it, and it's exhausting.
Right.
So I go in, and but when you tell me about kids being harassed and kids are being, all right, I don't know what I can do, but I'll go in. I'll try. So I remember I went up on the second floor of this building, this burnt out building. There was no lights, no electric. I had to prop open a big exterior door to get light into the place, and there's a fly flying around. Um, I remember sitting down on the floor and meditating to try to figure out what's happening. And now they had said no to our knowledge, nobody died in the building. That was not true, because I sat down in meditation and all these people started coming around me. There was a woman dressed in 40s clothing, and she had two little kids holding their hands that came up, like, and there were people behind her. It was like something out of Poltergeist, when all those people come wandering down the stairs in Poltergeist, all these people come. So sending them to the light, trying to get these people to move on because they were stuck there. That was terrible. And then I saw it. Then I saw this thing, this black shadow figure with these red eyes, and it was like a huge bull charging at me. And I'm seeing it, you know, I'm kind of weird. I got all kinds of things happening in my head. But so I'm seeing this thing charge at me, um, and then I hear this huge crash, and it snapped me out of my meditation because I hear this huge crash. So it snapped me out. I get up, I run out of there, I run down the fire escape to these people's apartment, and they open the door and they're like, "Are you all right? Like, what happened?" I said, "Did you hear that?" Yeah, they had heard the crash. We had all heard the crash. We don't know where it came from. I have no idea, but it was when the thing was charging at me to get me out of there. It wanted me out of there.
Right.
So I thought, okay. I said, if I'm not back in 20 minutes, can you come find me? Come get me. I got to go back up. I got to clear this out. Just
Right.
come find me if I'm not, you know. So
Right.
I
Come
remember
save
going
me.
back up. Yeah, I don't know it was terrible. It was terrible. So I go back up, I sit down in my meditation, and I go back in and I see it again, and it's standing there. And that is when I ask the goddess for, like, I'm here by myself. I can't do this alone, obviously. I don't know what this is. I need your help. This sounds so corny. And then afterwards I'm like, did that really happen? Did that just happen? So I'm asking her for guidance. I'm asking her for her help. And this big blue whirlwind, like this beautiful, was like this huge blue tornado, starts twisting around this room, and it gets bigger and bigger, and it just takes up the whole building, and then it closes in, and I can see it sucking all this stuff. I know this sounds stupid. I see
No, I am fascinated. Please keep
sucking
going.
all, yeah, yeah, I know, it's dumb. It's just in my head. So it's sucking up all this stuff. It's bringing it all out, and then it's just this white wind comes through and cleans everything up and pulls everything up. And then my eyes are closed, and I'm like, okay, it's gone. Everything's gone. And I see her come into the picture right before the wind comes.
Just got
And
chills.
and yeah, whoever she was, because afterwards I'm second guessing. Did I see that? Did that happen? Did that happen? I don't know what happened. It just, you know. So I get up and I walk downstairs, and I said, I think we're going to be good here. I said, I'm not saying that it's totally gone. I said, you all have so much going on here in this building. There's a lot. But I, I think we got it, that thing. I think we got it. I think we got it out of here. I think you're going to be okay. So about 2 weeks later, and then you do. We doubt ourselves. We doubt, and I need to stop doing that. I keep hearing, stop doing it.
Yeah.
But we we have a tendency to dismiss these things that we see right in front of us. We see these things happen. Um, about 2 weeks later, called them back, and they were like, "I'm sorry, who are you?" I said, "I'm Toni. I was the one. Remember the crash?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, we're fine. We're fine." I said, "Okay, you've not. There's nothing." They were like, "No, we got nothing. It's good. Everyone's sleeping. Nothing's." They were like, "No." They go, "Wait, there is one thing." I'm like, "Okay." They said, "It's like this. It's a little leprechaun, and he does it like a couple times a week. like we'll be sitting down and we'll be watching TV, and this little leprechaun does this jig right through the middle of the living. This sounds so stupid. I know it sounds dumb, but it does a little Irish jig right through the middle of the living room, and it goes, and that's it. They said we have no problems. There's nothing. So that was the
That's
God.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. It's silly. I've got lots of really weird stories, but
I
maybe
think they're absolutely fascinating. Like I could totally just do a whole nother interview with you just on the stories because I think they're incredible and fascinating, and we're coming up right for the perfect month of that.
oh yeah, yeah.
All of that. So if you ever would like to come back and just share your stories, I love them. I think they're great. And I think it helps other people realize too that they can trust their gifts, and the
I
different aspects that they can see and sense and feel.
I I I have never had anybody in my, like I told you earlier that my mother was very into this, my nanny was very into this, but no, I hadn't really never had anybody to help me
Right.
process the images, the things that are going on, and the things I see, and the things I can tell you. Well, this is going to happen, just so you know.
Right.
Um, so it's taken a long time for me to figure out. And I really wish I had somebody like me to help. Um, and now it's so prevalent in everyone. It's so out there, and people have written books now, and they just didn't talk about it way back then. And if you were a child and you did those things, your parents told you not to talk about it. Don't tell anybody. You just
Right.
home.
Right.
So it's been long. It's been a long journey for me trying to, and I still try to figure out, how to process some of the things that I see, or how. But Evo Dominguez Jr. I'm not sure if you know him. He's an author. He has been very helpful. If I have questions, he usually, um, because he's very wise, very wise. But I'll have questions, and he usually helps me out. And then there's other psychic mediums that I help, or I ask questions with. But anyway, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure it out. And anyone who tells you they have it all figured out, don't trust them, because
Yeah.
there's something new every single day. I'm still learning what a lot of this stuff is. So
Well, and I think to that fact as well, the more you use it and trust yourself, the more it evolves and changes, and new things can come up that you didn't know before, you didn't experience before. And um, so I do think it's a continuation. It's always changing. I don't really think there is like you said, you will never know it all. And I don't think there's ever an end to what's possible.
no, no.
Any final words of advice or wisdom that you would share with the viewers?
Uh gosh. Keep your sense of humor. Laugh at yourself. It's okay. Stop taking things so seriously. Don't, you can't really plan anything, because when you plan it, it just gets all screwed up. So just day by day, just have fun. And I know it sounds really corny, but it's true. Just stop taking yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
So,
And the planning part, I think that is true, especially
yeah,
in my household.
stop. So yeah, stop being so critical of yourself. Stop. Yeah, just enjoy this ride. Um, yeah. Ah,
Awesome.
I know.
Well, thank you
So
so much, Toni. Oh, go ahead, please.
no, you're very welcome. I told you before, this is probably going to be one of the most boring interviews, because I'm not that exciting. I'm not that exciting.
I have thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. And um, I hope to have you back. one for the museum to talk about the museum itself. And then I would love just a whole spooky episode with tales and ghost stories and your adventures or misadventures in the paranormal.
Yeah, there's lots of them. There's lots of them.
I would
Um,
love to hear them.
so yeah, yeah, we can next time we'll talk about the museum. We'll get Steven on. We'll talk about the Buckland Museum and what I kind of do on the other side. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions or wanted to get in touch with you, or is there a way that they could do that?
Um,
Or just through the museum?
yeah, just through the Buckland Museum, um, their website. Yeah, they can get in touch with me.
Cool.
Don't have me coming over cleansing your house with the because you got to go to you got some creepy thing at the well or no, unless you're really frightened. Unless you're really frightened, but so
Love it. Thank you, Toni.
all right. Thank you.
Until next time, guys.